Whether it's the website you go to frequently, the search engine you use, or your favorite video game, everything in your computer is built and run through code. However, we can't just tell the computer what to do in any language we want. In order to start programming, we need to type code in a language that the computer understands. Of the many programming languages, Python is a powerful general-purpose coding language that is easy to learn for beginners. In this video, we will go over basic programming concepts using Python. Firstly, functions are a reusable block of code that will run when you call it. Think about it like a machine that takes something in, performs a specific task with it, and then releases an output. One of the most common functions to use is the print function. In Python, the print function looks like this. Inside the parentheses is the string you want to print. Make sure you use quotation marks. When we run the code, it will take whatever is inside the quotation marks and print it inside the terminal. In the same way you send text to a piece of paper using the printer, you can send text to the terminal using the print function. The print function allows us to send any text we want to the terminal. In Python, there are certain special characters that allow us to perform specific tasks using the print function. For example, if we wanted to print something with quotation marks, we can't just write it like this, because that would lead to an error. Instead, we need to use the backslash before the quotation marks, so that Python knows that we want to print the quotation marks as a text. If we want to print something that is multiple lines and includes indentations, we can use \n to create a new line and \t to create a horizontal tab. Another way we could write this is by using the enter key to create new lines in our text. However, in order to do this, we need to use triple quotation marks. If we want to print something that includes the backslash, we need to make sure that we use two backslashes to let Python know that we want to print the backslash in the terminal. Lastly, we could use the \b as a backspace so we can delete a character in our string. While there are many functions built inside of Python, we are also able to make our own custom functions. For example, this function adds 10 to whatever number we input. We have to first define what the function is and what it will return. If we were to input 10, the function would take the initial value and then add 10, returning a new value of 20. Another useful concept are variables, which is a container for storing data values. We can think of variables as having a box. We can label this box X, Y, cost, or any other title we like. We are able to store multiple types of data inside this box. Additionally, we are also able to change and replace whatever data we want inside this box. Once we store a data value inside this box, we are able to use it inside our code. With variables, we are able to efficiently run specific tasks in Python. You may be asking, when are variables useful in Python? Variables can allow us to efficiently change and edit multiple lines of code. For example, here are multiple print functions talking about our love for apples. There are 4 lines, including I like apples, apples are my favorite fruit, I eat apples every day, and apples are the best fruit. If we were to run this code, it would just print those 4 lines like normal. However, what if we changed our mind and our favorite fruit is now bananas? We would have to go and manually change every single line of code so that we can print all these statements using bananas instead of apples. Having to change every single line of code one by one manually would quickly become a very inefficient process. Let's instead define a new variable called favorite fruit and assign the value apples, making sure to use quotation marks. We can write our print functions like this, where the variable is outside the quotation marks and separated using a comma. When we run the code, it will print the 4 statements the same way as it did originally. This time, we can easily change our favorite fruit from apples to bananas. This is as if we were taking apples out of our box and replacing it with bananas. Now if we run our code, we will print 4 statements about how bananas are our favorite fruit instead of apples. There are multiple types of data that we can assign as a variable. Integers are whole numbers that can be positive or negative. The floating point are numbers including a decimal point that can also be positive or negative. A string is a series of characters formatted using quotation marks, and a boolean is 2 values either being true or false. Our next fundamental concept in Python are control structures, which are tools that allow you to control the order of which the code runs. One of the most common types of control structures are if statements. For example, we can define age as a variable and then use the if statement to print the phrase "you are an adult" only if the age is greater than or equal to 18. If this condition is true, we will execute the block of code that is inside the if statement, which is formatted using indentations. If the condition is false, it will skip whatever block of code is inside the if statement. Another variation of the if statement is known as the if-else statement. We can use the same example involving the age. This time, if the condition is true, it will execute the block of code inside of the if statement. If the condition is false, it will instead execute another block of code that is inside of the else statement. Another common type of control structures are for loops. For loops are a tool used for iteration, allowing us to repeat a specific block of code. In this example, we are iterating a sequence of numbers. We will start at the first item of the sequence, which in this case is the number 1. The for loop will then check if we have reached the end of the sequence. In this case, it is not the end of the sequence, so it will execute the block of code, which in this example is using the print function to print each item of the sequence. The for loop will then move on to the next item in the sequence. In this example, since it is not yet the end of the sequence, it will execute the block of code again, meaning that it will print the second item of the sequence, and then move on to the next item. This process will repeat for every single item in the sequence. Once we do reach the end of the sequence, we will exit the for loop and then move on to whatever is next in the code. In this example, our final output would look something like this. Lastly, Another common type of control structures are while loops. In Python, while loops are formatted like this, allowing us to repeat a specific block of code until a condition is met. In this example, we are looking at health like in a video game. We will print the value of health and then decrease the health by 10 until the value of health is no longer greater than 0. It is important to always modify the variable used in the condition, or else you could end up with an infinite loop. In this example, the health will start at 100 once the while loop begins. Since the value of health meets the condition, it will proceed to print and then decrease the health by 10. Now that the health is 90, it will recheck if it meets the condition. In this case, since the condition is met, it will proceed to the block of code again. The while loop will then check if the condition is met when the health is 80. As you can see, this process will continue until the condition is no longer met. Once the condition is no longer met, we will exit the loop and then proceed to the next line of code, which in this example is printing the statement "you lose."